And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. We got a special episode for you today. I sat down with comedian Luke Mones to talk about his new album coming out courtesy of Blonde Medicine. It'll be out today, actually. April 20. Oh, wait. When is this going to go up? Oh, Jesus, I don't know. Let's say this goes up April. It is April 17th, to be fair, for fair warning. Let's say it goes up April 19th. All right. 2 days. April 21st. Happening in my head. This is his debut stand-up album. It gives a peek into his psyche to the delight of a packed house in Brooklyn during the New York Comedy Festival. I spoke to Luke about this album, as well as, quite frankly, the one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to him was because he made me laugh for the tweet, I believe, that is pinned to his profile. If you still go to Twitter, God bless you if you still do, but I don't. But I had to go look up his information anyway. So there's a tweet about being the boyfriend who has to talk to another boyfriend. It's a video. So it's a boyfriend who has to talk to the other boyfriend of two girls who know each other as they stop the chat with each other on the street. It's a very funny tweet. I liked it so much that when I saw the press release after the fact, I went to go look up his name and I said, this is the person I want to talk to. Very long-winded way of saying Luke is a joy. We had a very just frank conversation. I'm making eye contact. So let me give you another behind-the-scenes look. I have the camera on because I'm about to record another show, and I'm just looking dead at the camera as if I'm recording currently right now. I'm not recording video. I'm just recording audio because this is the audio portion. How you doing? Anyway, Luke Mones, happening in my head. Blonde Medicine, April 21st. I've not heard it, but he's a very funny comedian. You can see a lot of his stuff on YouTube. He's appeared on Conan. He's done the CW's Great American Joke Off, which I believe is a show that runs on Friday nights on the CW, of course. He was the host of The Breakdown on a weekly show on from CBS, based on behind the scenes of an Inside Edition. He did a digital series for Comedy Central called Genies. And yeah, he's a very funny guy. He was part of Netflix's first introducing showcase, which is a very cool thing to say. Like, hey, I was a part of this showcase for Netflix, which is like a huge thing. Like, how many people, I know Netflix throws out specials all the time, but they're still supporting comedians left it, like even lesser known comedians and younger comedians in Luke's case. And it's great to see them doing that. And quite frankly, it's very cool. Any Hoosers. Anyway, you can listen to this interview where I talked to the guy about just all things comedy. Very frank discussion about comedy and things of that nature. And we have fun. We make jokes. And he also I want to mention this. He's a very smart person. I can't believe. Yes. Sometimes I talk to people and we just have a nice time. But I gotta say, Luke is very smart. He has some really good insights into the world of comedy. So that was nice to hear. You can go to Luke's website, LukeMones.com. Follow him on Twitter at Luke Mones, Instagram at Luke Mones. God, I genuinely, I've been trying to avoid saying his last name. I really hope I've been saying it correctly. Instagram at Luke Mones, TikTok Luke Mones, just everywhere. And then YouTube, Facebook. On YouTube, it's Luke Mones Comedy. Again, he's a very funny person, and I hope you check out the rest of this interview. And if you want to see a video version of this interview, head to youtube.com/C plus comedy, where you can watch it under the show called The Interviews. And if you want to see a video version of the other podcasts, including Late Night Lately, the late night show, as well as the Constitutionals, as well as LinkedIn Logs, youtube.com/C plus comedy. And you can see our premiere news show, News Time. It's like The Daily Show, except way, way worse. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at C plus comedy. Follow me at Chad Black White. Tell your friends about this and enjoy the interview with Luke Mones. Truth be told, I saw one tweet from you, and I needed to talk to you, and it was
What
the
was the
two
tweet?
boyfriends, talking on the street while the girlfriends are talking. That is like, it's such a funny idea. Like I can't believe that even exists as a joke. So I loved it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's based on years of experience of me being I wish I could say I was the person behind the camera, but unfortunately it's just years of experience of me being the guy, me being the other boyfriend who you get stuck talking to. So that yeah, thanks. I was not expecting that video to resonate with people, but I guess it did. So thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like if being in that situation, period, with just anybody, regardless if you're dating somebody, you're just someone's friend there with someone else's friend who you don't know. Like, Jesus Christ, it is so. I don't have anxiety, but that gives me the worst feelings in the world.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I made those videos, that kind of series of awkward guy videos with my friend Brendan Sagala, who's a comic out in New York, and it just kind of started where the first one we made was the when you run into uh, the guy who your girlfriend used to date,
Hmm.
and it's sort of a similar conversation of like what do we talk about? And then the guy who gets to your party too early. And so what we realized after a while is, oh God, this is just all different situations with the same guy who happens to be me, where I'm just trying to think of things to say. And they get weirder and weirder because I don't know how to have a conversation in that situation. So I end up being like, what's your favorite kind of weather or whatever?
Well, I mean, now that you're a touring stand-up comedian, surely you have enough I don't know, charisma to to just lead a conversation at this point.
Yeah, no, that's true, but it's easier with the microphone and everybody sitting down and facing you, and I will say I've certainly gotten better at it, but I can never forget my I can never forget my beginnings as somebody who could not carry a conversation, and that informs a lot of my comedy today.
Yeah, yeah. What, I see it. I've seen a lot of what all the stuff that was available on YouTube, and
Sure.
it's very reminiscent of Conan. I think of,
Hmm.
if I have to relate you to somebody, because apparently we have to compare everybody to everybody else. You're very reminiscent of Conan in that you're just this tall guy with a lot of self-deprecating satire, and I think it all works, and there's a kind of swagger about it, and yeah, I mean, yeah, just in
Thank you.
general, I think it all just kind of fits together.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a comedic sort of North Star for so many comics, and I like I think he has a kind of not just being tall, but he also has like a sort of a silliness and a goofiness at his core, while also kind of having uh sharp, incisive kind of observations that, yeah, I think he's definitely. It's so funny, like you said, everybody has to get compared now, and of course, I'm very grateful and humbled that you would compare me to someone like him. But I do think it's interesting too with comics. Like, oftentimes, I it's I don't think about who, because you try so hard to carve your own voice and sort of mine your own creative well of like thoughts and observations and like
Mhm.
and building and that sense of humor, and like it takes a long time, but you sort of try to hone that original thing that you forget until you sort of look around like, oh wow, like it's almost like a music where it's like, oh, this sound definitely like
Yeah.
informs the way I like to write songs or whatever the music metaphor is, like
Yeah.
I think that it's so many different types of comics like who I watch them and like I can see, oh yeah, like this person, like I watched this person as a kid and like this is definitely like super informative of my uh sense of humor now and the way I like to do stand up now or make
Right.
skits. And yeah, it's like even like the boyfriend video, for example, like that's a different style of joke and a different style of comedy, but I still think it comes from that same place of, like you said, self-deprecating, but also trying to be, sharp and extremely goofy.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, and that's it's like the going back to the musician analogy,
Yeah.
somebody being able to ape what's been done before. It's a blessing and a curse. There's positive negatives to it. It's like the band Greta Van Fleet. They sound like Van Halen, and then
Yes.
they refuse to acknowledge it. And just
Right.
like dude, just like you sound like him. It's good. Like it's fine. It's whatever. I mean, people
Totally.
still love that. Like I still have I have a Sirius XM, and one of the channels that I have saved is Classic Rewind, and of course I'm
Yeah.
going to enjoy whatever classic rock like comes up on there because
Sure.
it's all the same. Like we're still kind of hearing it today, and I mean, like just acknowledge it that like Greta Van Fleet say should just acknowledge that they're doing it like you have, and if they can make it sound like it's their own, then make it sound like it's their own.
Totally. I think that it's tricky with I was actually just having this conversation with someone last week about the sort of nuance of uh creating your own sound with like comedy versus music, because like sort of to your point, like so much of you can really hear like in a band like that, like their sound influenced by bands before them, and to a further extent when like an artist samples a song from another artist or takes a riff from another artist, there's like an understanding in music that that's like part of it, and it's sort of part of the art form is like sharing sounds and building music together. And with comedy, as you know, it's like this different sort of thing where there is this like, joke stealing is so frowned
Mhm.
upon and is something that every comic I know, makes an effort to, but when I'm like running bits by my comedian friends, the first thing I say oftentimes is not, is this funny? It's, does anybody have this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like I'm taking painstaking effort to like do my own sound, so to speak. But yeah, like it's so weird because I'm also, it's like you gotta hold two things at once. One is like trying to have your own original sound, and the other is, yeah, like being mindful of the fact that you are your comedic forebears. You
Yeah.
are kind of like a product of the people who you watched and listened to as a kid. So it's a weird balance, and that's what makes comedy so fun, that you can like, without stealing a joke or a style directly, it's like you can kind of create your own form that's so uniquely you, while being influenced by those who came before you.
Right. Like I can't tell you how many times I've sat down to write like a sketch idea or a joke idea down, and then only for it, 2 weeks later or 2 years later to be done on late night or to be done on SNL or someone does it on
Of
Twitter.
course.
And I go, all right, well, there's that. Or like how many times have like I watch a lot of late night. So you'll see I'll watch a monologue probably tonight about Trump's arraignment,
Right.
and like Jimmy Fallon will probably say the same thing as Seth Meyers will probably say the same thing as Stephen Colbert. Like it's all gonna it all falls down on itself.
Of course, I think there's only so, especially with the news, by the way, there's only so many like observations we can make and we can have, but so true. Sketch ideas, and now with the proliferation of video content with TikTok and Instagram Reels, and we're firing off so much stuff all the time that, of course, there's going to be overlap. And so, gosh, talk about another sort of unique understanding of having to hold two thoughts at once, which is like people can have parallel thinking and that people can come up with the same idea months or years apart, and you know the intent is kind of what matters, of like what clearly this these shows are not stealing from each other. In fact, interestingly, I remember talking to someone who used to work at the Daily Show back in the back in the last years, I think, of Stewart, when Colbert was still there.
Mm.
And because Stewart, I think, I want to say, also produced the Colbert Report, there was a lot of like talk between the shows
Yeah.
throughout the day. There was like at least a dialogue maintained. And so sometimes they would, like, people who worked there would like share the takes and share some of the jokes and topics that they were going to cover that night, because they were churning out stuff so much so that they wouldn't overlap. Because
Yeah.
I guess that would be sort of a direct conflict because they were on the same channel right after each other.
Yeah. Wow. That's I like that a lot. I like to imagine, John Stewart coming from downstairs and then like sitting down with Colbert
Yeah.
today. That's very funny. I couldn't imagine that happening now, like as if something that was going to happen in 30 Rock or anything. That's a
Totally.
very good idea. That's yeah.
I think that was, and I don't know for sure, but I think that was like kind of unique in the scope of late night and stuff. But yeah, it's true. It is funny to imagine like a big red phone on Colbert's desk that he answered in that character, and they talked about what the jokes were going to be. Yeah,
Yeah. I that's it's yeah, comedy is it's hard to grasp, but when someone does it well, I
yeah.
really like to go along with it.
Hmm.
Like for you, when did you decide? When did like when you started doing comedy
Yeah.
and you weren't comfortable on stage? When did that
Mm,
switch happen? When did you finally feel as if you belonged on the big hardwood floors that are stages?
sure. Gosh, I did stand up for like a year and didn't tell anyone
Oh wow.
in my family. Not maybe, I probably, I would say I did stand up for almost a year and didn't tell any friends or family. And then when I was probably close to a year in, like 9 months or so in, I finally like got the courage to tell my family and friends and like post about it on Facebook. And so I was a senior in college, and I think, I don't know, for whatever reason, like I didn't feel, I was like, until I think I'm like good at this, or until I feel like this is something I really can do, I don't even want anyone to know it's happening. I want to be
Mhm.
existing in a complete void.
Yeah.
And I would say probably around that time of like just getting my sea legs, and I was started comedy in New York and did a bunch of like open mics every day. And so until I kind of got the hang of that, that's when I knew like, okay, I want to give this a shot. I really want to, I really love doing this, and I want to see how it plays out. I don't think I was good at it until, gosh, what, I don't know, a month ago or something. I don't know. Not even now. God, I don't know. But I don't think I was like confident in my ability until much later on. I mean, this is a weird thing of like starting out in stand up in a place like New York, or frankly any place where it's like you really do have to have like a certain level of delusion or inflated sense of yourself, I guess, because I was not doing shows, but I was like going to open mics and then going and watching shows where like the best comics in the country were like
Yeah.
doing sets. And like, I was like, they were just doing like an entirely different thing for me. And in many cases, they still are doing an entirely different thing for me. But uh, but like, yeah, I had to be like, okay, just, you know, keep putting your head down and writing and performing and getting comfortable on stage. And uh, but also at the same time, you suck, and that's okay, you know. Like, so I think it's a multi-step process that,
Yeah.
you know, feeling like you belong, but also knowing that you're not there yet.
Yeah, I get that. I understand. Like I think back to I started this website, in 20 what year is it? 2023. Yeah, so 10 years ago in August,
Mm-hmm.
I will started the website. And I didn't start interviewing people until a year later when I was just offered off of just a chance somebody who I vaguely knew. And then I feel bad because the first I guess 2 years I was, or 2 or 3, I would even say 4 years, I was just
Yeah,
like not good at it, but I just kept getting people. And then I eventually started getting better and better until now I can just, have a conversation for 30 minutes and it works
totally,
out and it's done
totally.
well. It's like to me with your like thing of hiding that you've been doing it for 9 months, and then my thing of like not really telling. Also, I'd never told people about it for like a year or change.
We're very similar.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes me feel like we are the person who like lost a ton of weight for months and months on end, and then
Yeah.
when summer hit, we took off our shirt at the beach, and everybody's like, "Whoa, look at that dude over there! He's pretty. Look at he looks good, really sexy." As if
Yeah.
people talk like that, and
Yeah.
it's just like that. Like that's just how it feels, and
Yeah.
and like you said, I think it's a learning thing every single day. Like no matter how good like someone gets at something, there's always that chance of like of A messing up, but B being better after the fact. Like last week,
Totally.
I showed up late to an interview with a character actor,
Uh-huh.
and I had like I knew what was happening, but I was 30 minutes off. I show up late, and I'm just apologizing. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was an accident. And he's like, no, man, it's cool. He's like, but I only had like I scheduled 20 minutes, and now I only have 17 with him, and I'm just like
Mm.
profusely apologizing for 2 minutes. And it was
Yeah.
just it was the worst. But I learned from it, and we had a good talk, and now I'm here, and I've gotten an inch better at everything.
That's a great that's a very good perspective to have. Yeah, I mean we can learn from every experience, and it's nice to hear that you and I are in the same boat, that we began in that forced anonymity that we gave ourselves, and not wanting to tell people that we were uh, following this passion that we have. And you know, I have this like theory that I think that comedians like this isn't true across the board, and it's not
Mhm.
a, you know, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I think generally I've observed that like comedians either begin by stand-up comedy by telling every single person they know that they're going to do their first show and inviting like 500 people,
Mhm.
and, you know, making it a big, basically like coronation party, or they're do like what we did of like living in basically shame and hiding in the shadows and like growing in the mud, like into their own creature, and then being like opening the door 2 inches and being like, okay, I'm ready to be a comedian now. Like,
Yeah.
that tends to be the people I gravitate towards. I certainly have a lot of friends in the first group, but uh, I think the you know the I guess I gravitate towards those who grow. I don't know. It sounds so bleak, but I was gonna say grow in shame.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
it really does feel like that. Those are the two type of personalities for like creative people. Of like,
Yeah.
come check this out. I'm about to do stand up for the first time, and I'm gonna do 20 minutes, even though I've never been on stage before. Versus me being like, I'm gonna do 30 seconds at an open mic, and then go, live, in the darkness and think about how bad it was for 2 weeks or whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
I haven't done a lot of stand up, but
Hmm.
I remember my very first time was at something called like the Potato Shack or the Spud House or something like that. I'm in Atlanta,
Well,
so it was
okay.
I lived in the suburbs prior to moving to the city at my mom's house, and my friend was supposed to do his stand up set, and so
Uh-huh.
he was one of those people invited all these people and we all showed up for him, and then he got in trouble. He was a college student who was on break and he got in trouble at his parents' house and they wouldn't allow him like to borrow a car. So it's like it was me and like this table full
Oh
of people that
God.
came and then everyone else, and it's the suburbs, so obviously there were people there and they were, drunk on a Friday or Thursday or whatever.
Sure.
And they said, I remember the host was like, "Well, can someone come take a spot?" Because they needed the 5 minutes to fill, and
Whew.
there people were like pushing me on the shoulder, and I went, "Okay, I
Whew.
guess I'll go." And I had nothing prepared, and all I did was like make fun of my friends. And there was a drunk bachelorette party that was laughing at everything else, but when it came to me, just silent. They didn't even heckle me.
Oh.
They didn't say anything. And then I sat down, but everybody like still had the little golf claps, and
Mm.
it was so bad, so piss poor. And
Ooh.
yeah, I think about that every so often, and it really sticks in my brain. Whereas like it really humbles me whenever I'm
Yeah.
feeling like really good about myself. Like, yeah, man, I had a really great interview with Maria Bamford, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
I think about that and I go, ah, shit, like that was horrible.
Yeah, like it's good to have a it's funny, like it's like your origin, it's like your superhero origin story or
Yeah,
something, you know? You're
yeah.
like, I the first time I did comedy was for a bachelorette party that didn't like me. Like I
Ugh.
can't think of a tougher start, but like you said earlier, it's like we're better off for experiences like that, you know.
Mhm, exactly. Now this is your first album happening in my head.
Yes.
Where did this come from? What was it? What was the decision to finally take that first step and record your first record?
Yeah, coming out of the pandemic, I was doing a lot of stand up the last few years, and I was ready to. There's this, I guess, hour and change that I've been doing for, I guess, if you include 2000, like 2019, 18 through now, that like I had never like put out before, and it felt like, I'd done a couple of those Comedy Central sets that were on
Mhm,
YouTube, and so I had some like work out there. And increasingly now, as there's so much more push to like get all your stand up out there with
yeah.
clips and everything like that. And so I was like, for the longest time I wanted to do an album. That's how I got into stand up initially, was like listening to comedy albums on like iTunes and Pandora. And I like taking in stand up comedy that way. And, it felt like it was either, do this or try to like film like a special, which I still would like love to do soon
Mhm,
with my next hour. And, it feels like the kind of the next step in like this career of just being able to put together an hour of material and then begin the cycle of putting it aside and beginning anew. And I love the feeling of doing new stuff and, pushing stuff to the top and then setting it away and, having material that I feel I'm ready to like share and put out there. So yeah, it just felt like this was kind of the time. It was always something, for the last couple of years, even right before the pandemic when stand up kind of stopped, it was like something I had wanted to get ready for, that was kind of in the back of my mind. Like in 2019, I was like, yeah, sometime in 2020, I'd like to do an album, maybe in the fall. And then obviously that didn't happen. So,
right.
um, yeah, it just felt like, yeah, something I always wanted to do. And it was cool, really cool to work with the label Blonde Medicine and to be able to record it at the New York Comedy Festival was just like a awesome experience. So yeah.
What now that was that your first festival? Because that seems like such a huge stage to record something so monumental in your own career. I don't I like what is it like doing comedy at a festival when those people might not necessarily be there for you, but just for comedy in general.
Totally, yeah. I had done a bunch of, not a bunch, but I had done several shows in the past, like mostly by virtue of starting comedy in New York and just kind of being around at the New York Comedy Festival. But this was the first time I ever had done like a headliner show there or at any festival, period. And so, I just looked at it more like, okay, I've been doing my hour all year in a bunch of different places around the country, and this is just another night where I'm doing two shows and I happen to be recording them. And it's like I said, I started there. And so it kind of felt like a home game to a certain extent. And I felt really comfortable. And the bigness of the festival wasn't something that I felt as like a intimidation factor. It was more just like this will make it more fun and kind of imbue it with a more exciting energy. So, you know, I was grateful to have the recording at the festival because it made it kind of feel, more special and like more of an event. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't I don't I wasn't like it. I guess I wasn't feeling it like super acutely on stage
Mhm.
because I was just treating it like another show.
Mhm. But you recognize now, like, do you recognize now that I was at the the New York Comedy Festival? Like
Yeah,
that was okay.
totally. No, definitely. And I'm very, very grateful to be a part of it and to have my album recording be like tied to it. And um yeah, I mean, I think it was just a super cool experience that I would not have predicted or seen coming a few years ago. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely really exciting, and to have people come out to both shows and to not have anybody, scream and interrupt the recording, and to not have me slip on a banana peel on the way up to the stage. It felt good.
Can you imagine getting that old Tex Avery type of like joke just
Yes.
happening to you?
Oh, it lives in my mind every day. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, someone's gonna, yeah, there's gonna be some big slapstick moment that's gonna derail the show tonight.
Yeah, someone's throwing like people start throwing tomatoes like you're in an old vaudeville set. A giant hook comes out and like pulls
Yeah.
you off.
Yeah, that's my dream. I always have wanted it to be just a giant. I always wanted a giant hook to come take me off the stage. I'm a big guy, so we're gonna
Yeah.
need a big hook. That's in my
Just
rider.
yeah, exactly the biggest hook in the world.
Yeah,
Now, what about the Netflix introducing comedy thing? Like that
yeah,
was that like that's their inaugural thing. I had no idea that that
yeah,
existed, and like that's got to be a huge honor. What happened when you were chosen for that? Did you
yeah.
feel the same thing for the New York Comedy Festival, or was it a completely different feeling?
I mean, it was also very cool and very humbling and a really cool honor to be a part of that. Obviously, Netflix is the, elite name in comedy and something that every comic, in 2023 strives to be associated with. And so, yeah, to be part of that group chosen at their first festival is kind of like their, you know, new crop of up and coming people or whatever you want to call it was extremely cool. And to be able to do like a big taping at like a big theater in LA, I think the same week as all of these massive shows were happening. And, I think now they're going to do this Netflix festival every other year. And
Mm,
it's just like this big production that, yeah, it felt super, super cool to be a part of. I mean, the preparation for it and the experience of it were different from the album just because it was my hour versus 5 minutes. And so,
yeah.
like, and I auditioned for it and then got it, versus the New York Comedy Festival album taping, which was like this thing that I had knew was happening and I was like building towards it and uh, personalizing in a major way. So both very cool honors, and I feel very lucky to have done both of them um, in the second half of last year. So yeah, it was awesome.
Do you think this mean like because once you're part of the Netflix family, like they'll keep you in there. You think that they're gonna toss you in the next season of like Shadow and Bone or Alice in the Borderlands? Just
Yes, that's my hope. I think I posted on Instagram after I did the taping. I was like, "Look, I just want to meet the Oakjaw
yeah,
guys, please.
yeah, yes.
I've done the festival. I did a show. Like they put me on a show with where I with Bill Burr, where I got to
Oh wow.
host a show that Bill Burr was that came on, and I was like, that's all cool. I'm so grateful for the taping. For God's sake, let me meet the Oakjaw. And they
Yeah,
haven't responded, and they've blocked my email address. But hopefully that will change. No, I'm just kidding. But it was in all seriousness, it is cool being like having that Netflix, I guess, credit, and just have it just being tied to them, because obviously not only are they the big name in comedy, they're also just aren't they? They're just kind of a big name in everything, aren't
for
they?
real. Yeah. Now they're getting into video games. So
Are they?
yeah, they have they bought the same company that did Oxenfree. I don't know if you know that game. And
I don't, but
uh,
that's crazy.
it's yeah, they and now if you go on the app on the mobile app, I'm pointing to my phone as if you can see it. If you go on the
Yeah.
mobile app, you can download games from it now, and
Oh,
it's
I have
so
seen that.
sick.
Yes, yes, yes. There's mobile games
Yeah.
on the Netflix app. Yeah, that's nuts. And I guess maybe they'll do live TV eventually and sports. So
Hmm.
the the
Yeah.
world's their oyster, I guess.
For real. Now I want to ask you about the Great American Joke Off. How
Oh
what
yeah.
was that? Like I know the CW does comedy things every so often. So
Yeah.
it was I watched a trailer for it and I thought that was a very interesting play for them to have all these names come and do something that I'm like, and no offense to them, but I'm guessing like 20,000 people saw in total because I know they don't have the highest ratings.
Yeah. I don't know what the ratings have been. I mean, the show I think just premiered this past week,
Mhm.
but I mean, the CW, they got pretty they do Riverdale, right? I mean, that's pretty big.
Yeah, but I
But
mean, like even Riverdale's probably getting like 500, 600,000 viewers.
oh, is it that? See, I'm not familiar. I'm not familiar with the whole the ratings of it all, but I can speak to the show. I mean, basically, we shot it in London, and it's a play on the Great British Bake Off, which I'm saying, and I'm sure you knew. I
Mhm.
had no idea until a few weeks ago. I was like,
Oh,
oh, I just got it. I just got it, and everyone was like, yeah, you shot that show a year ago. Like, are you okay? And I was like, I had truly no idea.
right.
I anyway, but these panel shows, these kind of comedy panel shows, are huge in England. It's sort of like
Mm.
one of the pinnacle heights of uh, what comedians aspire to there. And they don't have as much of cachet here in America. And so I think this is
Yeah.
a play to try to m- make it happen, and to sort of take a swing. It's made by the people who made Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is, a British show initially, and
Yeah.
isn't necessarily a panel show, but has been huge in America for several decades now. And so they have a great track record, and they have a really good track record as well, of course, in England with a variety of panel shows. So like, yeah, I think it was very cool to be a part of. Got to work with a bunch of amazing comics and meet uh, a lot of great British comics as well, and work with them. And yeah, it was a cool experience. We had to work a lot and write a lot, but I think I think it's gonna come out great. So I'm excited. My episode comes out not this week, but this next week. So the fifth the 15th, I want to say, something like
Okay.
that. So
All right. Yeah. I'll
Friday, the
definitely have to
next
give it a
Friday.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a look. I like
Yeah.
it's I love a good panel show. James Corden, his show is a panel show, and
Yes.
I think it kind of translated, but yeah, you're right. The English do love it because the Graham Norton show is just it's amazing. We can get four A-list people to just
Yeah.
sit there and talk and bounce and riff and with each other and
And yeah, and
it's
I love those clips too. Like those are really fun clips that I see with the Norton show has, and like this is also like very gamified, where like kind of doing contests, joke off, of course, kind of doing
Mhm.
contests with each other and like topping people's one-liners and everything. And
Yeah,
so it's that panel element plus the game show element. So yeah, it was just it was a super cool experience, and I love kind of going back to our the initial thing we touched on. Like I love taking you know a different avenue of comedy and just kind of like seeing how my brain and style like deals with it and how I fare in like a extremely novel environment, whether it's like
yeah.
doing a sketch like the boyfriend thing or, this format like a panel show. It's like, you know, uh, it's cool to see how my jokes and how my like style works or doesn't work in a different way.
Yeah. Luke, this has been great. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and also we only have like 3 minutes left on this
Oh, yeah, yeah.
free
Yeah, it's been
talk.
great. Thank you.
It's like it's amazing. You're very smart, very funny, and very introspective. It's
Thank you.
good. It's good to have a comedian who knows what they're talking about and then can also back it up. It's this has been a joy, truly a delight. Thank you so
Well,
much for
thank you.
sitting
I
down with me.
Thanks for having me, and I really appreciate you saying that. I promise you, I am an idiot. So it's but no, that's really nice, and I thank you for having me on and for taking the time and for such great questions. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and is the album's out the 21st, I believe.
Yeah, so the 21st, the album comes out on Blonde Medicine. It's going to be everywhere: Apple, Amazon, Spotify, iTunes, uh, Google, etc. And then also at blondemedicine.com. And then on my website and stuff, you can order a vinyl if you're a vinyl person.
Yeah, dude, I think people really do collect those vinyls, especially for stand up. It's amazing. I can go down to my local vinyl shop and I can see like so many, Red Fox, whoever
Yeah.
is there. It's great.
Yeah, and people, I mean, I'm however people want to use it, I'm for. Like, I love seeing a wall. Like, a lot of times I'll see people have a wall with like different vinyl comedy albums that they'll use for like posters, basically, or if
Mhm.
they like listening to it that way. I think it's make vinyl's making a big comeback. And I also like going to my local record store, and there's no better feeling than doing. I'm tilting my computer so
Yeah,
you can
yeah, yeah.
see that motion of the flipping
Thumbing through.
through, thumbing
Yeah.
through. Exactly. And I love that sound. It's very satisfying. So if anything, buy it for the ASMR of flipping the album back and forth.
Yeah, buy a couple just to do that noise. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that a
Exactly.
lot.